I'm very excited to say that my guest today is the incredible Jono, who I've had the privilege of knowing for 5 years, 6 years now.
Probably 6, yeah.
A long time. Not enough time.
Not enough, yeah.
But a good amount of time. And we're here to talk about all things creator economy and your incredible life and career. So, Jono, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you for inviting me, sir. It's a pleasure as always.
Oh, here we go. So, how would you describe what you do?
Fluke, luck. My day-to-day is managing about 5 or 6 Instagram pages and their Facebook counterparts, as well as now I've sort of dipped into a load of consultancy with a few sort of private equity groups, and yeah, it's sort of all go when I'm not on calls with very rich men wondering what the next step is with their digital media sort of progression. I am finding memes or making recipes on my food page, or looking after my daughter.
Quite the contrast, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of I'm always on, never off, but it's fun.
And take us through your pages for people who don't know, and because it's one of those things where I think most people in the country will follow one of your pages. They won't know it's you necessarily, but they'll be following one of your pages and will know the memes. So talk us through the spread, how they all came to be, and what it's like to run them.
Started out with Made in Poor Taste back in 2016, maybe. That was just like dodgy memes, to be fair, at the start. It wasn't really, I never thought it would be a career. From there, started the football brand, which is Stray Offside, which obviously like football's on all the time, always. Yeah. Then it was OnlyScrans, which is now my sort of biggest one, revenue-wise certainly, which is a lot of fun because when I actually started Made in Poor Taste, I couldn't cook. Never.
You wouldn't think it.
Never tried cooking. Like, used to burn toast and burn pasta to the bottom of the bowl.
Now you're slow cooking beef on a Sunday.
Doing all sorts, man. Doing tacos in my own house. It's like, well, how did this happen? Don't know how it happened. Just a load of research and dedicating myself to like actually learning a lot from different people. So that's been a lot of fun and very tasty as well.
Yeah, I can imagine the food in your house is absolutely 10 out of 10. So I want to go back to the beginning a little bit. What were some of the first pieces of content that you ever made starting in this industry, and how do they compare to what you're doing now?
So I guess when I started, way before my actual career started in this whole world, it was when I was hungover in bed and very bored, and I was watching this guy called Felix Baumgartner. He was going up into space, and then he was going to skydive out of space.
You go up and jump
yeah, it was
down,
like the Red Bull thing, right? Yeah. So I...
It's the biggest live stream ever on YouTube,
yes,
I think.
Yes.
I think they said...
For good reason, he's jumping out of space.
Oh, yeah, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
Was that 8 million? Something stupid. I remember...
It was crazy, yeah.
Mad.
It was mad numbers. So I was like... I sort of woke up like 15 minutes before it happened and was just like, this is cool. Just like still like a little bit inebriated from the night before. And I just made a new Twitter account called, it was Felix Baumgartner 1 maybe, or maybe like I think the A may have been a 4, something that like made it look a little
decoy.
Yeah. And I just started tweeting, I've just jumped from space. What the fuck have you done with your day?
I remember that.
Yeah, that was the tweet. That went mad.
Did not know that was you.
And then I started getting followers and loads of followers. I think I got like 40,000 followers within hours. So I was just having a bit of fun with it because like when he was going up, it was like, there were a few things that were going viral. But then when he actually did it, I was like, oh my God, like this is going mad now. The rush that I got from doing all that and like the numbers, I was like, this is class. Like, I love this.
And you were signed to a label. You were in a band at the time.
We were signed to Red Bull Records at the time. And I got a message, you just signed to the label. This paints Red Bull in a really bad light. Like, I think one of the tweets was one small step for man, one giant leap for energy drink marketing. So like he saw that and was like,
the boardroom going crazy.
Yeah. Everyone's like, this guy's getting more traction than the actual guy. So I panicked and I just deleted the account because I didn't really want to get dropped from the record label.
But then obviously it's interesting, right? You've obviously signed to Red Bull, you're making music, this happens, this rush then catapults your world, and you just go, this is it. Like, how did it change your career trajectory?
So from there, I started actually working really closely with Red Bull on like the marketing campaign side of things. If we had an album out or a single out, it'd be like, right, how are we going to...
And they still didn't know, by the way, that you'd just done this?
They didn't, because we nipped it in the bud quite quick. It was all on the same day.
But ironically, you were then going and doing marketing.
And then I was going and helping them, yeah. Well, like, but it was all for our stuff. And I was consulted on a few Red Bull records, like the other artists on there, like, how can we like sort of like nip into like virality, and how can we make campaigns organically sort of go viral without trashing the brand. I quite enjoy like the numbers as opposed to like the music. Like, we went with a producer who started like sort of writing all our songs for us, and I was just like, I'm not really down with this, to be honest with you. I don't really enjoy it anymore. And that is when I met a guy called Thom, who worked at LadBible, and so I was like one of the first through the door at LadBible, and met Ariane.
What are some of the biggest learnings and things that you've taken from that you now replicate into everything you do on your own pages?
Just being as relevant and topical as you can possibly be, as quickly as you can. If something happens, you need to be straight on it. Like with the Felix stuff, it was happening that day.
15 minutes.
15 minutes beforehand. So LadBible were really, really good at the reactive stuff, really good at sort of not only reporting it, but then like reporting it in a way that their audience would actually relate to and care about, and then maybe like making fun of certain things. And with memes and stuff, you have to be right on the pulse. As soon as something happens, be the first on it, and like have like this backlog of information in your head, and this backlog of sort of, so I mean, on my phone I've got like a folder of, I think in stills I've got like 700 memes, like pictures, and in video I've got like 1,200 videos. So as soon as something happens, it's like attach relevant picture to this or video to this, and it's going to be a banger.
That's really interesting, that thing of strategically building your funnel of content.
But the thing is, I've got so many now that like I need to actually start making sub-folders.
Because otherwise you're just going like,
It's tough, because there's so much football stuff in there, but also like that's completely irrelevant to stuff that might be happening in the news or politics, or like obviously the recent stuff with the Royals and stuff like that. It's like, you can't really put a Mourinho video to that. Like I'm scrolling through, I've got about like 100 Mourinho videos. Just being so quick is essential. It really is.
Yeah. So you mentioned the network. So can you talk to us a bit about that, how that works? It feels like a bit of an Avengers of the UK meme scene, if you will. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about that, and also how the network kind of comes together to lift everybody up? Because I feel like, having worked with you guys, that's such a tenet of all of you, is that everyone's there to support each other. And
for sure. So we got Shane at the Archbishop of Banterbury. We got George, Great British Memes. We've got a whole plethora of other pages with similar followings. And personally, I used them to just post my recipes, and they did. And then a lot of people followed me from it. Which obviously grew Scrans loads. But when it comes to brands and stuff, they'll sort of ask, how many views do you think we can get on this? I look at the bare minimum of what we could possibly do, and it's a hell of a lot. Like it's really impressive what the network can do.
How would you, like, for example, I'm a brand, I want to pay to put my ad, let's say, on through the network. How would you like build a plan for me? Like, what would that look like in terms of numbers, for example, if I'm Channel 4 or whoever it might be?
I mean, first of all, it's like, what assets have you got for us to amplify? And then, so just, I'll use this latest Channel 4 one as an example. They came and they were like, okay, well, we've got this trailer. It's like, obviously, if you just post a trailer, it's not going to do anything. You have to then give context to it. Like meme pages are used to a little bit of white text above the thing. So it's like it hit KPI within 7 hours. And sometimes they can be really high. And when, you know, I've turned down campaigns where the budget's been X amount and KPI's been completely disproportionate. I've gone, look, I've looked at the brief, I've looked at the asset, and I've gone, I'm not going to be able to do this. It's always about trying to provide, obviously, for the audience value, but the brand value as well. Like, I'd never take on a campaign that we couldn't hit target on. I know a lot of people end up losing a lot of margin because they have to pump a load into paid spend because
they overpromise.
What they overpromise has not come to fruition.
Yeah,
and it's like, and you see it on your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed, and all those promoted ones that are just like scroll straight past it.
Of course.
That's just the graveyard for dead campaigns, basically.
And I guess to also move on with a bit with Scrans and to talk a bit about the business side. So I remember speaking to you before, and it was as Scrans were just blowing up, and you said it's now become like your biggest revenue driver. It's now doing so well for you. Like, what is the financial journey in this whole space for you, and also for others who are looking to get into the world of, you know, publishing memes, original content, especially on Instagram and so on? Like, how has it become a business, and what does that mean for you now?
So Scrans, I remember my first ever paid campaign for Scrans. I think some sauce company sent me a load of sauce, which wasn't even that good. They gave me 100 quid to post it and say it was good. So I did. And that was only 3 years ago. So now I'm working with Heinz, Hellman's, huge, like, I've done stuff with like KFC.
But just a bit bigger than £100 now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So in February 2020, your likes were averaging around 8K, right? Talking about the uplift. 2021, they're averaging 28K in the space of a year. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was. I think that was. I think I probably have to put a lot of that down to people wanting to learn how to cook during lockdown because they couldn't go out. The growth that I was getting then was insane. It was like sometimes I'll be like 15K followers a day. But sometimes now, even on TikTok, I'll get 15K followers in a day because obviously TikTok's like the Wild West at the moment. Like you get a viral video, you fly. It's mad though, because like I did one video on, well, it's the same video, but on Instagram it got like 500,000 views, and on TikTok it got 4,000 views. And I was like, how's this?
There's no logic to that.
I was like, is this some guy just randomly just picking videos out of a hat to go viral?
Yeah.
But then sometimes on Insta it'll be 200K views, and on TikTok it'll be 7 million. So it's like, it's tough. It's for me still, that is still like the newest and most interesting and exciting platform, TikTok.
I found that so many food pages have just done unbelievable numbers on TikTok,
it's
right?
insane,
Like some of the people you see, don't feel like Fit Waffle and some of the big sort of like dessert pages and some of those. I mean, the numbers are staggering. I mean, what's your view on TikTok for people in the food space specifically?
I mean, it's mad because it seems a little bit oversaturated. It seems like there's not as much money from brands in TikTok.
Definitely not.
I think like because there's so many people on there that are doing stuff and anyone can go viral at any point, building a brand on there is a little bit more difficult than it is on Instagram. Just because there's so many people doing exactly what you're doing and might not even have the production value that you have or like the brand that you have. When deals come in for me, Instagram is X amount and TikTok is about 10 times less. I think it's 200 odd K on TikTok, 600, nearly 700K on Instagram. But it's 10 times less money there.
Do you think that would change?
So I feel like branded campaigns on TikTok, as soon as people see that it's sponsored or it's an advert, people switch off.
Yeah. It's so easy just to...
And you just scroll past, fine, done. But on TikTok, I feel like the algorithm just stops serving its people. Like you won't get anyone, like genuinely you'll get like 3,000 views, even if you got 200K followers. Whereas if I do a sponsored video on Instagram, I know for a fact it's always going to get at least 150,000 views. That's at the very least. And that's if it's me eating baked beans out of a shoe. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like the very worst content you could possibly imagine. Whereas TikTok is sort of, I think that the cream really floats to the top there. If it's a really good branding campaign, I think you've got to be a lot more clever to be successful there if you're doing ads.
Because the content really has to shine. You can't, I think you're right, with Instagram, there's a level of, your followers will always see what you post.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
On TikTok, that isn't actually the case because of the algorithm and how it's about like good content ultimately floats to the top and everything else. That's, it makes a lot of sense.
So if you're a content creator and you get sort of, you've got a loyal following, you get, I don't know, like 500K views per video pretty much consistently, and a brand comes to you thinking, hey, we can get 500K views here. It's not the case. Like, especially not because they're probably going to push a load of red tape
make your life
across of you and just be like, right, well, you can't do what you normally do.
Which is what gets the views.
Which is what gets the views. You have to do what we do. And then, you know, they lose a load of money, but the creator makes a load of money, and that's fine for the creator, but the brand doesn't really get any value from that.
Obviously, you've been doing this for a long time. You're incredibly experienced, and you're one of the leaders in the space in this country by a country mile. I think so many people at home can learn from you, and people who want to get into the space who are coming through can get a lot from your story and your brilliance. So I'd love to know, like, what's kind of the one piece of advice that you would give to a young creator looking to make it today?
That's a tough question, you know.
It's a big question.
It's a big one, isn't it? What do you want to see? Create that, because someone else will want to see it as well.
Very good.
I think that's probably
a good answer.
Yeah.
Really like that. And lastly, could you give us a creator or a couple of creators who you are really excited about at the minute? I always think this is a hard question as well because there's so many. But who are you excited about?
There is a chef called Thom Bateman who, I mean, as a chef, he's unbelievable. His credentials are fantastic. He's got his own restaurant. The guy can cook, and he's so dedicated to his craft as well. Like it's one of them. So he's a chef, and then he's learned social media afterwards. Whereas I'm a social media guy who's learned how to cook afterwards. But he's really, really just ramping up the content. Like he's got 1 million followers on TikTok now, like 200K on Instagram, and like his growth's insane because he's a real deal. He's like, he's an actual chef, but he's doing like his way of creating the content it's the same formula that I use for mine. Like it's really, really easy to follow. It's like for the everyman. He's doing really well. It's a shame he's a Stokey. His accent's disgusting.
Otherwise it would have been 10 out of 10.
Another one would probably be there's a guy called Bobby Fairways. He does a podcast called Bob Does Sports. American guy, really charismatic and funny guy. And like he's made this whole, like he's inspired me to go out and play because it's like, you know, he'll play 9 holes and he'll go into the clubhouse for like a few cocktails and come back out and like he does like sponsored deals with like Corona, and he's just a funny guy. Honestly, even if you don't like golf, just follow him because he's absolutely hilarious. Like genuinely.
Very good. Well, mate, thank you so much for all of your brilliance as ever. Till next time.
Absolutely. See you soon.
See you soon.